Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Passive Tree Podcast, a podcast dedicated to talking about life, Path of Exile 2, and everything in between. Tonight, on episode 15, we are joined by one of my personal favorite PoE creators. It's none other than Schwingy. Welcome on, and how the heck are you doing, man?
Thanks for having me, dude. I'm doing great. Having a good day. Like I said, I'm on vacation right now, so I'm relaxing while still working on the YouTube side of things. But I'm just taking it easy. I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing really well, man. Yeah, I'm not on vacation right now, but I'm basically on like a
No.
little bit of a week break between like two really big projects. So I was doing like a
Yeah.
work trip for 3 weeks last week, and then I just got back. So it's been nice to just be like at home on the computer. I get to like do these podcasts and just like play some games too. So I'm feeling good, man.
Play some PoE.
Yeah, yeah. What are you playing right now? Can you give us a little teaser?
Oh
Like
man,
what's popping?
well. Okay. So in terms of like Path of Exile, I haven't played anything for almost 2 weeks now. I did my last like Flicker Strike video, and that was like the last PoE stuff I played. I'm working on a PoE 2 video. That's what I'm working on next. It's like a playthrough that I started like over 2 months ago that I'm finally getting around to actually editing and putting together. I'm in the script writing phase, which is always like the slowest part for me, to be honest. But we could talk about that some more later. Besides that, I've been playing a lot of games. I've been playing Cyberpunk for the first time, which I'm enjoying, and just recently started playing Peak, which is like one of those like social games
Bro,
where
I
you play
just
with
played that
friends.
yesterday for the first time, dude.
Yeah,
We should play. It's
yeah,
so fun, man. It's so
it's
fun.
really fun. I just got my
Yeah.
first ascent today. I'm like, oh, this is nice. This is really fun.
That's so sick. Yeah, my friend, he like RP'd as a guide for me yesterday on my first roll. So
Okay.
he was like, hey, like he was acting like he was like my friend, and then he's like, but this isn't the person you're going to be going on this adventure with, and then walked around
Yeah.
the training area, and then came out and just RP'd as this guy named Jarvis, who was my tour guide the whole time. And it made the game so much fun because you're
Wow.
talking in game too, like you're not talking on
Yeah,
Discord and
yeah,
shit.
yeah. Oh, you have to talk in game. It's like you
Yeah.
have to do that. Without that, you're missing out.
For sure. Dude, it's a blast. Yeah, so I got the lady it. I just bought her it. We're probably actually gonna
Yeah.
play on stream tonight after we wrap up.
Cool. Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome though. It's always nice to have some vacay time and actually sink your teeth into some games that like you haven't had a chance to play. I know Cyberpunk's been
Yeah,
on
that's
the
it.
radar for a lot of people. I
Yeah.
haven't gotten back to it since like the launch of the game, but I've heard that it's like so much different from like when it came out basically.
That's it. I bought it years ago, played for like 5 hours, and kind of dropped it. And now I'm just rediscovering it because I've got some time, a little bit. And I'm like, okay, let's get into it. And I'm really enjoying it so far. It seems like they did a lot of changes from what I've heard. And it's certainly not the Cyberpunk that released, back in 2020 or 2021. I don't even remember anymore. But it's not that buggy mess that it was anymore.
Yeah, nice. And your computer must be like pretty good if you can like handle playing the game. So that's hype, man.
Yeah, I actually got like a new computer relatively recently, a couple months ago. So I'm like, this is like putting it to the test.
Amazing. All right, man. Well, I would love to sort of get into the Schwingy lore, something that I do on the podcast every episode. A classic
Yep.
question. Give me your first foray or introduction into gaming. Was it console? Was it PC? Let me hear the story.
All right. So it goes way back. I mean, I've been playing my whole life, like pretty much everybody else that you talk to, right? From what I remember, the very first game that I got into, or not so much got into, but got like exposed to, I think was like one of the early Wolfenstein games on like a PC. I think my dad brought me to his office, his work office, and he had Wolfenstein on the computer, like on a floppy disk. And he put that in and kept me busy playing that. And I must have been like, I don't know, 5 years old, maybe four. I was young. And I think that was like my first time playing, definitely a PC game for sure. I might have played like the old Mario games on the NES, like at my uncle's place, because he had one of those. Uh, but I really don't remember. And then I do remember playing Duck Hunt, actually. I don't know if you ever played that one, but that's like, with the little laser gun and you're shooting the birds and stuff.
Yep.
That's a
Yep.
classic.
For
Yeah.
sure. Dude, I feel like Nintendo has just been so like I guess ahead of its time in terms of like the tech that they used to use in their systems and stuff like that. But with the
Yeah,
Switch 2, I feel like they didn't really do anything new. It was like y'all just dropped this system and it was like there's no games for it. You didn't do anything differently with
yeah,
the system too. It's like this isn't the Nintendo that I remember. But yeah,
yeah.
Duck
They're
Hunt was
playing it
crazy
safe.
back in the day.
They're playing it safe, I think, and they're just like the Switch was such a success that it kind of just
Hmm.
makes sense to make a Switch to like a better version of it.
Hmm.
I think that's just what they went for, you know. And but yeah, the launch roster of games is a little disappointing. I mean, I'll probably get a Switch 2 eventually. I have a Switch. I don't use it much though, to be honest. Not anymore, anyhow. But Mario Kart World looks cool. The Donkey Kong game looks cool, but it's not good enough to make me want to buy it. Let's just put it at that.
100%, dude. I was expecting like a new like Mario Odyssey type game or like a new
Yeah,
Smash Bros or a new like Zelda, like one
yeah.
of those like heavy
A
hitters
new
that basically like
Zelda
sell.
would
Yeah.
definitely do it.
They would say those things sell those consoles, right? So I was actually
Yeah,
quite surprised to see that like they were leading with like that Donkey Kong game, which has been really well reviewed. Like it's
yeah,
been
it has.
glowingly like well reviewed, which is sick. But yeah, I was a bit surprised about the roster. Um,
Yeah,
all right, so
yeah.
you said Wolfenstein was like your first like memory of a
I
basically
think
computer
so.
game, which is
Yeah,
not something you hear every day. Like I used to play those types of games back in the day too, like stuff like Duke Nukem or Dune and like those types of
yeah,
like first person shooters back in the day. Definitely wasn't my first game though, so that's super interesting. You mentioned your
yeah.
dad put you onto that. Does your dad still play video games? Like what's he up to?
Absolutely not. No, not at all. Not to my
Okay.
knowledge, anyhow.
True.
He was a bit of a gamer, not like not nearly to the extent that we are. Let's just put it at that. But like he definitely introduced me to gaming. Um, he had friends that he played games with socially at occasions and stuff when they'd get together. Um, Mostly being like NHL '94 on the Sega, if I remember correctly.
Nice.
So that was like definitely like I was playing that too as a kid when we'd go to like his friend's house and we'd boot up NHL '94 and play and all that. I was terrible at it, but yeah. So I guess that was like my intro to that. But then otherwise, like definitely like going to friends' places and playing their Nintendo 64. So like Mario 64, Super Smash. I think there was a Mario Kart on there. Pokemon Stadium. I don't know if you played a lot of Pokemon Stadium. I remember vividly playing a ton of Pokemon Stadium, like the mini games with other people. That was a lot of fun. And I only got a console. Like my first console was, I guess I was like 8 or 9 years old. It was the PS2. Um, and then I just like fell in love with gaming at that point. I also did have a PC at the time, or like family PC, and it could run some games. Um, but yeah, I definitely like on the PS2. I played a whole bunch of stuff. So like Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank. Those are like platformers that I fell in love with really, really quickly. Sly Cooper comes to mind, also in that vein. And then shooters. There's like Time Splitters 2. I don't know if you know Time
Yes,
Splitters.
dude.
I
Time
played the
Slayers 2
hell
was
out of
so
that.
good.
Like the split
Yes.
screen. Oh my god, I spent so much time playing that. And like you just pick the little monkey and you run around killing everybody. Oh, dude, that
Mhm.
was so much fun. Time Splitters 2. Although like I don't know if you've tried playing it recently, but like the aiming was not what we're used to anymore, right? It wasn't like the Halo aiming. It was like more wonky with the thumbstick, and it's really hard to go back to it now.
I bet. Yeah, I mean, that's a fascinating point that you mentioned Halo aiming. Like Halo revolutionized first person shooters because it like gave you aim assist. Like that was something that just like never existed before, right? And so going back
As
and
far as I
playing like
know, yeah,
I have like all the systems you mentioned because I'm a huge nerd and I actually collect systems. So I have like everything
okay,
up to like from like Super Nintendo. I have an N64 with Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. I have a
yeah,
PlayStation 2 as well, but I don't have Time Splitters, which is something that I actually
okay,
would love to get. But yeah, man, me
yeah,
and my siblings used to play that like split screen with the homies all the time. Like endless
yeah,
fun. Endless fun.
yeah. Time
Yeah.
Splitters for sure. And then the biggest game for me was Final Fantasy X. That's like my all-time favorite game, and that was just like some friends introduced me to it, and then I thought it was really cool really early on, and then it became this game that I would play like once per year, and I would get stuck at a boss, and then I would give up eventually after beating my head against the boss, and then come back the next year, start over from the beginning, play through it again, get to the boss, beat the boss this time, get stuck at another boss, and then like it took me like 10 years to beat this game, but it was all worth it because it's such an amazing game. I love that game, and it
Nice.
ended up shaping my life in a lot of ways. It's like the music was something that I hadn't played any games with music like Final Fantasy has, and I really got into music at that point, and studied music and like learned to play guitar and everything because I wanted to learn to play all these songs on from Final Fantasy. So yeah, it really shaped who I became. Although I wouldn't say I do that much anymore.
That's super cool. I mean, that's just the power of video games as an art form. It has the power
Yeah,
to like influence your life like forever. Like a true piece of art, like a good video game or a good movie or good music. Like that's the
yeah,
power that it has, and it's super crazy. I feel the same way about like games like StarCraft and Diablo 2. Like those were
right.
games where like I still go back and listen to the Diablo soundtrack all the time or the StarCraft Terran
Yeah,
music all
yeah,
the
yeah.
time. Like just
That's
timeless
yeah.
bangers, bro.
That
Um,
twangy guitar.
yeah, dude. I was never like a music person. I was always way more on like the visual art side of things. I used to play
Hmm.
guitar when I was like a teenager, but I would always like be like playing video games instead of practicing. So that was just me
Yeah.
where my priorities were at. Um, but yeah, man. So it sounds like you were basically a console gamer for a long time. To follow up with that, do you still play console? And when did you make sort of the transition to playing more like PC games?
Okay, so to answer the first part of that, do I still play console? Technically, yeah, I guess because of the Switch, which I sometimes play Switch exclusives on it.
Mhm.
It's more of like a with friends type of thing, and like with my girlfriend for sure. Um, on my own, I don't really play consoles much at all. We have a PS4, never got a PS5 or whatever the latest Xbox is called, and at this point, like I'm like fully, integrated into like the PC system, and I have been for a long time. Even I'd say like shortly after getting the PS2, I did eventually get like really into PC gaming because I was playing Diablo 2 back in whenever Lord of Destruction came out. I was playing Diablo 2 at that point, and same with like Age of Empires 2. Played a ton of that. Both of those games I really got hooked into, and those were definitely like the ones that started my, I guess I could say, addiction to playing PC games. And then eventually that, I found League of Legends, and then the rest is like, history.
Damn, dude. Yeah, Age of Empires 2 is such a banger and also has great music too. I can still like
Yeah,
I can still hear like the music for that.
I could hear
Aside
like the
from
sound effects of the guys spawning, like the something like
yeah,
that.
or walalol.
Oh
Just
yeah, exactly.
there were so many good sound effects in that game. Also like yeah,
Yeah,
like dude, it's just crazy.
yeah.
So aside from like, League of Legends, Diablo 2, Age of Empires 2.
Hmm.
Were there any other games that have left like a lasting impact on you, as through your childhood or as a young adult?
I mean, besides those ones and like Final Fantasy, like I've played basically every Final Fantasy since 10 that has come out, so I stuck with that series a lot. I'm a big fan, even though it keeps reinventing itself, and a lot of the fan base doesn't like that. For me, I don't really care. I think that's part of the charm is that they're always trying new things, and it's fun to see where they take the game in the next direction, like in the next installment. Um, Most of them are like turn-based RPGs, at least the old ones were, but they eventually evolved into like more action, like fast-paced stuff. Uh, they might even lean into like soulsy combat in the future. I wouldn't be surprised. They just want to do whatever is popular. They just want to be at the forefront as much as possible. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I've stuck with them. I really like their games, and like I really like the stories that they tell. I think that's the
Mhm.
main thing. I really like a good story. Another game that like comes to mind, like The Last of Us. That's just was phenomenal. And then most recently, Expedition 33, also really crazy, really really crazy story, and then the gameplay is really fire too.
Nice. I was actually gonna follow up and be like, "Yo, have you played like Expedition 33?" It feels like it's like
Oh
a
yeah,
natural progression from like playing Final Fantasy games, right?
honestly,
Yeah.
like when after like the first 2 hours of Expedition 33, I was hooked. I was like, oh my god, this game is gonna be in my top 5 easily. And
Mhm.
then the more I played, the more I was like, oh man, this is like top 2 now. Like this is up there. This is like Final Fantasy X, Expedition 33. I don't know which one I like more. We'll see with time. I definitely have like a nostalgia bias towards Final Fantasy X, but I think Expedition 33 might have a more impactful story. We'll see as I replay it over the years.
I think it's going to be like Expedition 33 is going to be the next generation's like Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 10. Like people are going to be
Yeah,
talking about that game the way you talk about Final Fantasy 10 about that game in like 20 years or
I
something like that. You know what I
I
mean?
could see that. I could absolutely see that, and I hope that that's the case because that would mean that like the future is bright for the JRPG genre, which I would say it hasn't been for a while.
For sure,
The
dude. Like
Expedition brought in a bunch of new life into it, which I'm really happy to see.
yeah, and it's an incredible story too, like an indie dev with like 33
Oh
people
yeah,
making this game that's like insanely well reviewed. And everybody who talks about this game, I kid you not, everybody who I've talked to is just like, this is like the best game I played in like the last while since like Elden Ring or something like that, you know? Like
yeah,
it's crazy.
exactly.
Yeah, man. So, you know, I'm not a player game enjoyer really. I play these
Okay,
games, but I never actually finish them. I don't know what's wrong
yeah.
with me. I'll like play them and then be like, like I'll just get back into playing Counter-Strike or Dota or Path of Exile or all of these multiplayer games. And so I was talking about this with
Yeah.
somebody yesterday on stream and I was like, maybe I need like a detox where like I just like unplug from these multiplayer games and like take a stab at Expedition 33 because it looks incredible.
I would recommend it. Like, it's not the longest game either. Like, I don't know how much you play games, but you could probably get through it in like 30 to 40 hours. I think that's about how long it took me to get through the main story. And then there's a whole bunch of optional stuff you can do if you want. Um, I didn't get around to that this time. I'll get around to it eventually, but I'm not in a hurry to just like blaze through the whole game. I want to enjoy it slowly.
I mean, when I'm into a game, I don't know about you, when I get into a game, I just play the shit out of it. Like that's what I do with like every single game that I play, especially if I'm not working. Like I'll just be like, all right, guys, like today is the day where I just play for 8 hours. You know what I mean? But I wanted to follow up sort of about gaming and about content creation. So I took a look at your channel, as I
Okay.
do with all of my guests, and I went and clicked on that little button called the oldest videos
Oh
button.
yeah.
And so I looked up some of your stuff, and it looked like you started making content around 4 years ago for a
Yep.
game called Bullets Per Minute. So let's talk about Bullets Per Minute for a little bit as sort of a throwback. So talk to me
Sure.
about that game. Talk to me about what about that game inspired you to sort of put yourself out there and start making content for it.
Okay, so for those who don't know what this game is, it's a roguelike first person shooter where you have to shoot on the beat. So it's like a rhythm FPS roguelike. It's like this weird mix. I really
BPM
like
baby.
music. Yeah, BPM exactly. I really like music, so it was kind of a nice fit. I really liked like Doom as well. Um, yeah, Doom 2016. I don't know if Doom Eternal was out by then. I guess it was because that was 2021. I might have played Doom Eternal by then. I'm not sure. Anyways, I like FPS games. Um, so it seemed like it was going to be like a good fit. I had just happened to be playing that game, and my friend slash coworker who has been doing YouTube for a long time, he kind of suggested like, "Hey, why don't you just try this YouTube thing?" And I was like, "Okay." I had been actually tried doing YouTube channels throughout the years, way before the last 4 years. I've my oldest channel is like from 2007, right? I don't have anything good on there, nothing panned out, and any of the other channels I've worked on in the past, nothing happened with them. This is the first time that a channel actually gets any kind of traction. Um, so I was always toying with the idea of doing YouTube. It always seemed like something fun to do, and yeah, this friend convinced me to just go for it. What's the worst that could happen? So I did, and I started uploading really crappy videos that I've unlisted since then, and they were just like BPM playthroughs with no voiceover or anything, and nobody would watch that. What also got me to decide to do BPM was that there really wasn't anybody else covering it at the time. It had been like a relatively recent game. I think it had been out for a few months, maybe, but nobody was like still making videos for it except for like the small speedrunning community. And so I decided, okay, what the hell? I'll make like little boss guides for each of the bosses in that game. Because there were, some of them were genuinely quite tough, and I figured like I had seen boss guides for other games. I can't really remember. Maybe like Guild Wars and like World of Warcraft, that kind of thing. And so I was thinking, okay, I could try something like that. And I figured I would learn how to edit at the same time. I'm gonna develop a skill set that I don't have, that I've always been like keen on. I always liked the idea of editing. I just never really did it. And yeah, it was a great like learning experience. People took well to the videos that I made, at least the people that were watching it, which was cool. And I got like 40 subscribers from that. And one of those videos, like my beginner's guide, actually now has like over 20K or something like that 4 years later, which is hilarious because it's such a bad video when I look back at it. But it is fun to look back at that kind of stuff and see where you've come from.
100%, dude. That's one piece of advice that Local Hole gave me that I think has resonated with me was that if you're ever nervous or scared or not confident about going in and starting your content creator journey, go back and look at anybody that you look up to's content and see their older videos, and it'll make you
Yeah.
feel so much better because everybody starts off somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way about
yeah.
my videos, even though I started like in February. You know what I mean? And so I think that's a good thing. Like, if you look back on it and you like
Yeah.
cringe a bit, like you feel like you've come so far from that already. So
That means you're
yeah.
improving. It's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely. So as a follow-up to that, so you started off with bullets per minute. What sort of led you to switching over to Path of Exile? There's got to be a story there.
Uh, I had been playing Path of Exile for a very long time at that point, and I was still playing Path of Exile when I was doing the bullets per minute thing. Um, and I ran out of stuff to do in bullets per minute, and I was like, where do I take this channel now? And I just decided to put a video out. I was a little bit down in the dumps. There had been some stuff going on in the family that was unpleasant, and so I was playing a lot of Path of Exile to sort of just put me in a headspace where I'm just focused on the game and not thinking too much about all this other stuff. And that's kind of like I decided to make a video about how Path of Exile was good for that. How you can just get into the grind and you're just focused on the next progression, and it's able to just like keep you just focused and not thinking about like whatever else might be going on in your life and in the world in general, all the negative stuff. And
Mhm.
so I just felt like throwing that out there. I didn't have any expectations from it whatsoever. Um, and somehow it got like I think 600, 700 views, which at that point was like way more than anything else I had put out at that point. And it got that like relatively quickly. So I was really surprised, and I figured, maybe I could do some PoE stuff. And I had been watching PoE videos at this point for I guess like 7 or 8 years easily. So I was familiar with what the content creation space was like in Path of Exile. And I saw that there was a bit of I don't want to say an opening because it's not quite that, but there less of a focus on well polished edited videos, and a lot of the people that were making videos for Path of Exile were kind of just like talking heads, talking to the camera, and like just here's my build, here's this farming strategy, and I wanted to just try and like condense that and get rid of all the blah blah blah, and just like here's what you actually need to know. And so I started doing some stuff like that, and I think that got some traction early on. Um, I don't like looking back at those videos now. I'm like, God, that's terrible editing. It's horrible. But at the time, I was proud of it. And yeah, I don't know. I guess like that's just what got me into doing the Path of Exile stuff, and then I stuck with it because it was working. I will say that like a year ago, I did take a pretty long break from uploading Path of Exile stuff, and I started a second channel where I did non-PoE stuff, and that was really fun. I got to play a few games that I otherwise wouldn't have played, like Doom Eternal. I did a video on that, and Ultra Kill come to mind. Hyper Late Drifter. I did a few videos like that. And they got some of them got some pretty good traction. I mean, my Doom Eternal video is sitting at like over 360K or something ridiculous like that, which I was really, really not expecting. So I have this other channel in the back burner that I haven't done anything with for over a year now. but maybe I'll get around to it when I'm tired of playing PoE again. We'll see.
I had no idea that you had a second channel. I got to go check that stuff
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
That's super cool. Thank you for sharing that. It's interesting. One thing that I wanted to highlight that sort of is a great segue into my next question is sort of you mentioned that when you were looking at like PoE content, that you noticed that there was
Mhm.
a like sort of an opening or a niche within that niche, and that was more like polished and well like edited content, and it wasn't just like someone's head in the corner and then gameplay, and that's basically them just talking to the video. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I love about your content is how well edited it is. You know, you really put in the effort with your, transitions, sound effects, music, like titles, everything. It just like it really stood out to me. And I've only been aware of your content for the last couple months ever since I sort of got into this like, you know,
Yeah.
little like awesome community of creators and stuff like that. But yeah, I
Yep.
just think that your style is like super distinct. And as a person who like really enjoys doing that in my own videos, it kind of,
Mhm.
it made me respect your work more as well because I'm like, this guy's like going the step above. Like he's like actually like, keyframing shit and like all this type of stuff,
I try. Yeah.
yeah. So I just wanted to give you that compliment. And I just wanted to ask you, um, to develop this particular style that you've developed, were there any sort of like creators that you look up to or anybody that you want to shout out, maybe that give you sort of inspiration on that?
Oh man, there are so many inspirations there. Mostly like outside of the PoE space, to be honest. Um, that's not to say like nobody in the PoE world is an inspiration. Like, obviously, like my most recent stuff, where it's like just like kind of condensed playthroughs, I guess you could call them. There's these guys like Mage Fist, Exiled Cat, and most recently Thighworm, who's also been doing like a build roulette thing, like I do. Those guys definitely seen their videos get a lot of views and traction and was like, okay, let me give this a shot. And then also the Diablo 2 like challenge runs, those guys also led me to start trying to do this kind of storytelling based stuff. But as far as like the editing side of things, that was kind of just something that I think I just sort of picked up and like I really enjoyed the process of editing, and I really want to make my videos stand out as much as I can within my capabilities. And one thing that like I remember making a point of doing is that every single video that I would upload, I would make sure to learn something new every time. And eventually, like it just compounded into the point where I don't necessarily have to go out of my way to do that. It still happens naturally now and then when I'm trying to figure something out. But I got to a point where I've got like a skill set. I've developed a skill set that I otherwise wouldn't have had if I wasn't pushing myself to always learn something new. And so learning this new stuff would just mean like, looking things up on YouTube, looking for tutorials on how to edit this, edit that. How do I get this kind of effect? And I would just see what other channels are doing and then try and incorporate that in my own stuff. Main channels that I'm like really obsessed with, I guess you could say, are so we're starting from
All
the
right.
top, right?
All right, we're back. Sorry about that, y'all. I had a freak internet outage. So, Schwingy, you were talking about your inspirations for the video style that you've so carefully cultivated. I forget who you were saying
Yeah,
because I was too busy freaking around, running around my house. But would you
yeah,
care to
yeah, yeah.
elaborate?
Sure. So I think I mentioned some PoE guys: Mage Fist,
Mhm.
Exiled Cat, and dude, I'm blanking. Thighworm.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
also like a Lighty who has like the All for One SSF challenge like series that he's been doing for forever. I like following that. But then outside of PoE, I'd say is where like most of my inspirations come from. So there's this guy that I recently discovered, and by recently I mean like several months ago, called Deep
Okay.
Pocket Monster, and he does Pokemon card collecting challenges where he tries to like complete an entire set in like a weekend. And I don't care for Pokemon card collecting whatsoever, but he makes me want to start collecting. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to go for in my videos.
Hmm.
I want to be able to like show people that hey, like Path of Exile is fun. It doesn't have to be this super intimidating thing that a lot of people do think that it is, and that you can have fun. Just like jump in and like try it out, and just see what happens. So I try to also just like cultivate that kind of like fun, like just positivity that he has in his videos. So I'd say like he's one of my current main inspirations for how I edit my videos and stuff. Certainly like the vibes idea. And then otherwise there's like Skill Up, who does reviews and like this week in video games like news stuff. I don't care about the new stuff personally, but I really like his style of video editing and definitely has an influence on what I've done. Not that he's the editor anymore, but anyways, I like the edits on his videos. Nakey Jakey, Video
Yes,
Game
dude.
Donkey,
Yes.
Leon Massey, Indie Mouse, Funky. These are all people that I watch regularly.
Mhm.
Yeah, like these guys that just do like these really long like videos talking about like a specific thing, and it's really fun to watch. And they make you care about that specific thing somehow, just by storytelling usually, and good editing. And
Absolutely. I'm so happy you brought up some of those people because those are folks that I've been watching as well. And I think
yeah,
I would go as far as saying if you're like a YouTube enjoyer, just as a platform in general, the more stuff you watch like this, the more you kind of get inspired to be like, oh, like this is how could I sort of tweak what these folks are doing in terms of like editing or sound effects or stuff and put that into my own
absolutely.
video. And so it really
Yeah.
showcases that like you are just like a true like YouTube enjoyer, and I am as well. Like it's my main platform. I don't know about you, but like I don't really watch like TV that much. I'm more of a movie person, but spending way more time on YouTube than like anything else.
I've spent more time on YouTube than anyone should probably. So yeah.
That's amazing. All right, well, thank you so much for sharing that. That's super cool. Yeah, it's like it's kind of like if you want to make better like art or food or music, you have to listen to a lot of music or look at a lot of art or eat a lot of food. And so I spent so much of my
Yeah.
time before ever doing content where I was just watching a lot of YouTube and being like, I never really appreciated like the effort that like, a Nakey Jakey video actually took until I like started
Oh my
making my own
god.
content. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
bro, like this guy is going like next level, like especially his new stuff. He's really like
And he's
stepped
still
into a new
taking it
realm.
further and further,
Yeah,
dude. It's
yeah,
crazy.
like the
He's no
Counter
longer
Strike
the guy
video.
just sitting on the exercise ball. Yeah, that Counter Strike video was
Yeah,
amazing.
like where he rents like a
Just perfect.
studio and it's like movie quality like shots like intermittently into like everything like it's just like chef's
The red
kiss like
lighting, the
yeah.
blank walls. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, Nikki Jakey, if you ever hear
That's
this, come on
that's
the pod,
goals
please.
right there. Yeah, Nakey Jakey, you're invited.
Yes, come hang out. Please start playing Path of Exile. Get off Counter Strike, bro. All
hmm
right. So let's pivot a bit more into Path of Exile stuff here. So you said that you've
Sure.
been playing Path of Exile for a long time. You said that it was sort
Yeah.
of like, as you mentioned, a way to help you sort of like take your mind off of like the problems and all that kind of negativity that the world is just full of constantly. It's no different today than it was probably when you started playing, back in the day. So what about like Path of Exile specifically helps you sort of like get into this like like flow state, I guess they call it, where you're not really focused on
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah. I've tried to think about that so many times. I've wanted to make a video about just getting into that flow state, and I've never been able to put it into words. Um,
Mm,
I don't know what it is. It's just like you get so focused on what you're doing. Like when you have a build that is running well and like things are smooth, you just play, and you're not concerned about like, I don't know. It's so hard to explain because you do still die or whatever in game and stuff, and it could be a little frustrating. But for the most part, if you have like a smooth build, you can just play like endlessly and not get bored because it just feels fun to just blow packs of monsters up. Something about that. I'd say though that getting to that state on every build is different. Um, but that's also part of the fun of the game itself. Um, that being said, I definitely like in the early days of PoE, it was not really like that. It was like early PoE was a lot more like early PoE 2 right now, where it was more difficult, um, kind of rough around the edges. Like PoE 1, especially at launch. Sorry about that. Especially at launch, like it was super rough. I don't know if you like have looked back at like footage or stuff, but like dude, you would like get out of sync. You'd have desync constantly while you were just like leap slamming around, which meant like you'd think you're in one spot, but then the game server thinks you're somewhere else and you're dead. And like back then, everybody played hardcore. So that was a big deal. It sucked. Um, and like the game was just not nearly as polished as it is today. And I'd say like PoE 2 has released in such a good state in comparison to how PoE 1 was at the beginning. But I've been playing since the open beta, since day one of the open beta. Um, yeah, I had found out about it like just a few days before, and I was like, "Oh, this looks really cool," because I was a Diablo 2 player at the time, or previously, I should say, and looking forward to like something new in the space. And like Diablo 3 wasn't it for me. Didn't really love Diablo 3 when that came out. So seeing Path of Exile, seeing how dark it was, and like how challenging it was, and also I had like a couple friends that were like very into that as well, and so we all played that together. And I don't know if I would have gotten into it if not for those two friends that I still play with to this day. Yeah,
Gaming is always better with friends. And it's funny that we play a
yeah,
game called Path of Exile where you're literally like playing by yourself most of the time. But when you have those moments
yeah,
where you can get together with your homies and play a game together, like nothing really matches that. And that's sick that you
yeah.
still keep in touch and play games with the homies that you got you into PoE like back in early beta, which is what, like 10 years ago or something. That's
That's
insane.
like 12 years ago now. Yeah,
Yeah.
2013.
And I wanted to highlight something that you mentioned. So you mentioned that like when PoE 1 released, it was released in basically early beta or whatever like that. But the level of polish was like that of grinding your games in its infancy. So the game was
Yeah,
not in a very great state. And I find it so fascinating now. I get a lot of feedback from a lot of PoE 1 Andes who are saying like, oh, like PoE 2 is garbage compared to PoE 1 and blah, 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 blah. And then you think, and it's like, but wait, like wasn't PoE 1 also garbage when the game came out? Like, and I think by comparison, like PoE 2 is probably in a better state than PoE 1 was in like its 6 month like infancy. You know what I mean? So I find that
yeah.
those sort of comments are a bit interesting, and I feel like a little bit like I don't even know what to call them anymore, but it just seems like a little out of touch. Like, how do you
I think
expect
the
to?
argument is just that like GGG has been around for so long now that they're like, oh, people expect them to have things figured out and not be making mistakes. Um, and so like they're not willing to give them that leeway that they gave PoE 1 back when it was in its infancy. Um, whether that's fair or not, I don't know. Probably
Yeah, it's like
not.
I would love for people to just cut them some slack. It's like they're just trying to do the best they can, and like I don't know about you, but I've played a lot of early access games. Like I love supporting like Last Epoch when they were kind of going
Yeah,
out in early access and stuff like that. And like I have to say, like objectively, Path of Exile 2 is the best early access game I've ever played in terms of polish, in terms of like the amount of content and enjoyment that I've been able to have, in terms of like learning about a new developer who I've also like fallen in love with. And now I don't want to only play the game because I like the game. I want to play the game because I like the developers of the game too. It's just like
yeah,
it's a beautiful package. And it's just like I think like a ray of light. I feel like in the early access like sphere, there's a spectrum, right? Where like you're getting an early access game, and you're like, is this actually ever going to get done? Is this ever going to like
yeah.
actually get finished, and stuff like that? So I feel like they're kind of like helping sort of get rid of that like stigma at least in the best they can.
Yeah, I would agree. I think like PoE 2, its current like early access state and even like at launch, um, way better than most early access games. It's definitely good enough to be in early access. I think like anyone who's like arguing against that is like, wow, your expectations are really high. You probably just don't like early access, period. Like I
Mhm.
don't know what other game yeah, that's come close. I guess like something that's similar that I also played in early access that I really liked was V Rising. That felt
Mm.
really polished when that came out. And I haven't played it since its full launch, but I played a bunch of it in the early access and it was a lot of fun. That being said, I played like 40 hours of that versus I have several hundred hours in PoE 2 already. So I think that
Yeah.
speaks for itself.
Definitely, definitely. So sort of as a follow-up to that question, I know you sort of answered it in this, but I would love to get your full take. So, in terms of like early access, do you think that right now in its current state, let's just say like patch point two one or whatever it's in now, that Path of
Yeah.
Exile 2 has an um an acceptable amount of content to be in early access?
I mean, 100%. I don't think there's a reason not to, call it that. I think there's more than enough content. Like, it probably would have felt a little bit empty if they didn't have the end game in there at all. I think it probably was the right call to fit the end game into the early access rather than focusing on the acts. I think I agree with that. Um, but even without the end game, just the campaign, there's a lot of content there with all the different builds you could play. And honestly, maybe it would have been better off in terms of all the uniques that we got, since at the beginning they were pretty much all leveling uniques.
Yeah. 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 No, I totally
um,
agree. The only reason why I asked that is because I think a lot of people who have been playing PoE1 for a long time have been so accustomed now to the robust end game system that PoE1 has to offer. And so I think that it's really hard for people to understand that like that has taken a long time to get to, and that you said the word expectations. I feel like a lot of people have really high expectations for PoE2 because of, how high the bar has been set with PoE1. And it's just not realistic to expect a game that's just coming out in early access to have a robust end game system as comprehensive as PoE1 is. Um, I don't know if you think that's a fair take, but that's kind of where I stand on it. It kind of hurts my soul a little bit that so many people hate on the game just because it's not as like complete yet, you know?
I think that's a fair take. I think people need to remember that they chose to release it into early access. They didn't have to do that. It's a pro for us in terms of we get to play the game early. Obviously, a lot of people don't like that, and that's fine. If you don't like it, don't play it. But otherwise, we just would have been waiting longer and longer and longer, and then we get an end game system that maybe we don't like, and that would have sucked even more. Um,
100%,
so
dude.
so I don't know. It seems like it's a little bit silly to me, but I can definitely understand like people not wanting to participate. That's fine. It's
Mhm.
more just the saying that it's straight up bad and that there's nothing redeeming about it being in early access that I disagree with, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like even within like point one and point two, we've already seen like monumental changes that have made the game uh in probably the best day that it's been so far. Like you
Yeah.
played point one, like there was like the quadruple whammy where you die and you lose your map and you lose your XP and you lose your portal, and it's just
I
like
forgot about that.
and
Yeah.
it's like and like you couldn't see the rare monsters on the map and like all of these little things
Yeah.
that have sort of been and will be flushed out, so that by the time like or sorry 1.0 gets, you know, released, the game will be in such an amazing place, and that only can happen if we play the game through early access. Like, the game is built on
Yeah, I
player
think so.
feedback. It's the same with PoE1 too, right? And so we just need more time playing, more time testing it and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that you're like, you're so reasonable with how you know feel about both games. I feel like it's a refreshing take to talk with somebody who's like, you know plays both games, enjoys both games, and just seems like you just want the best for both games as well.
I do definitely want the best for both games. Like that being said, I think I might be one of like the people on your podcast who dislikes PoE2 the most.
Oh shit! Okay, let's
that,
get into it, boys. Lock
there
in.
are like there are some stuff that I just like really don't like, and I hope that they make changes. I don't know that they will because they're pretty as developers, they're pretty stubborn. I'll say that.
Mhm.
There have been a lot of instances where they're like, "No, we're right, and you guys are wrong, and we're not going to do anything about it." And then years later, they change their mind, and everybody's happy. So, um, one of the main things, I think, the main thing is the layouts and like the zone sizes. I really don't like it. They're huge, and you get lost. And some of that is just like learning to read them, which I'm fine with. I understand that like that'll get better as you get better at the game and stuff. And it's not like in PoE1 that wasn't a thing. You would get lost in certain zones, but the zones were a lot smaller comparatively, especially when you factor in your movement speed. Um, so I dislike the layouts. A lot of them feel like you're kind of just. I guess it's also tied to the fact that the goal in Waystones is to kill all of the rares. You can't miss any of them, otherwise you don't complete the Waystone. Um, so you kind of do a lot of backtracking, which I don't particularly enjoy. I don't know if some people do like that. Maybe they do. I don't really like that. In PoE 1, that's solved because when you do have to backtrack, you're so freaking fast that it doesn't matter. You're there in like 10 seconds. In PoE 2, like I sometimes find myself backtracking for entire minutes, and I'm just like, oh my god, I missed this guy way at the start, and you're like, oh, and you're trying to find a checkpoint and you can't find one, and you're just unlucky, and it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Mhm.
Um, and then the other thing, and this is gonna be silly because like not a lot of people seem to have talked about this, but it just like it grinds my gears. It's the freaking like little tiny pools and rocks that you can't walk over that your character gets stuck on, and then you die because you're like up against an invisible wall that you can't see, and you've got like volatiles on you or something. I don't know. It's just it just ruins the feel of the game. I wish the maps were a bit more open. Like I like the big open layouts a lot better than the tight corridor stuff. And then the ones like God, what's it called? The one that has like the rotten druid as the boss. Where it's like the kind of like the grim tangle layout. It's just like
Yeah, I think it's called
so
like
hard
seepage
to
or something like that. Yeah.
I don't think it's seepage. Seepage, I don't mind too much. Although there's like a weird corner in seepage where you like it looks like you can walk on it, but you can't, and it's really annoying.
Mhm.
But that's like really hyper specific.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
no, it's one of the other ones. Anyways, it's just like it just so many of these maps do have these little tiny things that are very annoying and frustrating to interact with because you can't interact with them and you can't see them, and you die, and that doesn't feel good. So those are like my two biggest gripes with the game. And then besides that, balance. Hopefully, balance will get better. I'm sure it will. But so far, there have been like builds that are just like way superior to others. And if you're not playing one of those superior builds and you're playing like an inferior build, oh my god, the game is way harder. Like so much harder than those meta builds. Yeah, the just to like give you a hint, the build that I'm playing or that I was playing on my most recent playthrough that I'm in the process of making a video for, um,
Mhm.
without giving it away too much, I'm playing as a class that is not minion based, and I'm playing melee minions, and it sucks, and it's like really frustrating because those melee minions, um, they can't like pass through each other. So when you get these like really tight narrow bridges and stuff, and like there's a rare monster sitting on the tight bridge, you've got like four of your army of like 20 something minions. Four of them are doing damage to the rare. And it just takes forever. It feels awful. There's a lot of improvements that could be made there, I think.
Okay, so in summary, biggest gripes. It sounds like a lot of your frustration has come from the environmental aspect of the game. So map layouts,
It
sort
looks
of.
beautiful. It looks beautiful. I gotta put that out there. It looks beautiful, but
It sure
yeah.
does. It sure does. It looks beautiful, but the beauty is overridden for you with the scale of the maps. How not all of them have favorable layouts, like really tight corridors and stuff like that. On a side note, that is like the worst thing for minions. Minions are already in a bad place right now within the game, but then on
Yeah.
top of that, having the environment impact like the like efficiency of your minions is just like a double whammy. You're like, oh my god, like these minions don't do a lot of damage, and now they're not doing even less damage because they can't actually like attack shit. Okay,
Yep.
so that and balance basically is like your two biggest qualms with the game. Something that, yeah, you're right. I haven't really heard too many people talk about that. I wanted to follow up with any other like major or minor qualms that are sort of like giving you the title of I hate PoE2 the most out of everyone you've interviewed because I feel like that is quite a claim. And from right now, from what I'm
Yeah.
gathering, it's not as bad as I thought it was going
Not
to
as
be.
bad. Okay. I mean, crafting is definitely lackluster. I guess if you're like hyper rich and you can use the omens, then you're good. But uh, it's basically like glorified identifying the whole like using exalts and stuff. Like it doesn't feel bad to use exalts, but um, I think this is also tied to balance, where like on a lot of builds you're trying to get very specific mods on your weapons, let's just say, or like your amulet. You want those plus levels to skills mods, right? And they are super duper rare. And then when you find something that has that and you go to Exalt Slam it to craft it up, you get garbage most of the time. And it just feels like you can't modify that. You can't like impact what the outcome is going to be in any like reasonable way. I know omens are there that can, play around with that, but I've never had any of those good omens. So it's like to me they don't exist. They might as well not exist.
Hmm.
So whereas like in PoE1, the crafting system is just like so much more freeform. Like you can take a base item that you found, like just like a white armor, let's say, and you can craft it up into what you want it to be by using the orbs that you find. And like I'm not specifically looking for like I need best in slot stuff. I just want stuff that's usable. And in PoE2, I feel like I don't find usable items nearly enough. Um, from the same playthrough, I went like 20 plus hours without finding a wand upgrade. To me, that's insane. Like that is crazy.
Hmm.
To be fair, I was playing that in SSF, so there is that extra layer of difficulty and challenge.
Hey, my man, an SSF enjoyer. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, I totally hear you. I mean, I'm an SSF player. I have been since like, point one and stuff like that. And yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's come a long way. I was just talking earlier about how I think SSF is now the most viable it's ever been, but it still hurts, bro. Like you were talking about how
yeah,
you're exalt slamming an item that you were getting excited for. You miss, you chuck it in the recombinator with another item that you were excited for, and that missed, and now they're
and
both gone, and then you're back to square
yeah,
one again. And you're like, all
yeah.
right, time to just farm up some more gold to gamble or get some more tokens for exhibition or expedition crafting or
Expedition, yeah,
yeah, or go find some shit. It's like there's not enough options. And that's the thing that I realized about PoE1 when I played for the first time, a month or so ago, was like even something as simple as essences were so much more valuable in PoE1,
Oh
where I
my
could
god,
constantly like
I can craft all
re-roll.
my gear with just essences, dude.
Yeah, man. And then like you go into PoE2 and it's like, from an SSF standpoint, guys, I gotta preface this because I know it's different for trade, but
Yeah,
you don't have a lot of these essences. Like you don't have a lot of the greater essences of haste to get those 35% MSs. And when you use one and you miss, it feels terrible because you roll like 15% movement speed and you're like, guys, I've only found like 4 of these. And
yeah,
I would hope that I have a better chance of getting something that I want. And it's not like you can reuse them again to increase your chances of getting that modifier. So I would really
yeah,
love to see a rework on, something that we already have in the game, which is essences. Like make those better, make those interact the same way that PoE1 has, where you can just slap them on again and again and again until you hit that
yeah.
desirable
They act like
modifier.
a chaos orb, basically, or well, a PoE1 chaos orb. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm pretty optimistic about the game in the future. I know, like as we mentioned before, we're pretty early into its like infancy, but crafting, especially now that I've kind of just dipped my toes a little bit into like the PoE1 side of things, I'm like, it made me like miss like a lot of these interactions, but it made me also like super optimistic for like what could potentially get translated over. You know what I mean?
I imagine that you're like pretty excited by all the possibilities because like once you see how it works in PoE1, you're like, oh my god, there is so much here, and like honestly, like once you get into that like crafting rabbit hole, you learn how much you don't know, and like every time you like discover something new, you're like, oh, that's how that works, and then you sort of like put the puzzle pieces together, and it's really really satisfying to do that. I think PoE2 will have that. It's just not there yet. Like all of my qualms minus the zone and like speed thing, um, I think are things that they will definitely improve. Like I don't think that it's going to stay like this forever. I think PoE2 is going to be a friggin' fantastic game. It's just not quite there yet for me.
Hmm. Which is interesting because I don't necessarily know I don't have like an extensive track record like you do with like how that you've claimed that they're like stubborn about certain things, but I'm interested to hear why you think that they won't change the zone stuff because they did change Act 3 in a lot of different areas to be smaller and more like concise. And so they definitely were like open to feedback about like those
Yeah.
issues. But do you think that they're going to like, dig their heels through the mud on like the map layouts, or do you think that you think that there's no way they're going to like adjust them to be better?
Oh, I don't know that for sure. I think the size thing is more what I think they might not change. And I think like the size thing might be a me problem, like to be fair. What I like about PoE 1 maps compared to PoE 2 maps is just like how fast you can do them. I'm the kind of gamer that puts the game on and I'll play just one map sometimes, one waystone. And I feel like in PoE 2, that is like a, depending on the build and depending on the map and stuff, that could be like a 10-15 minute commitment. Whereas in PoE 1, that's like 3-5 minutes. So in PoE 1, I can just like incrementally make progress. I'm like, oh, I have 5 minutes. I have time to play something. PoE 2, I don't get that. That's just the way I play this game and how I've interacted with Path of Exile over the years. Like I do just log on to do like one more zone in the campaign type of thing. And in PoE 2, that one more zone is a lot longer than one more zone in PoE 1. So
Mm,
that's a me thing, I think.
for sure.
I could see
It's
them
easier.
do yeah, I could see them doing like changing the zone layouts. I could see that. They might make them better. I don't think they'll like ever make all of them like linear or anything like that. And that's not really what I'm asking for either. Maybe just by having a more variety in terms of objectives and not having to kill all of the rares as the objective would be the solution. That could be something I could see them changing.
Totally. Yeah, I loved that aspect of PoE 1 where like I got into maps and I started noticing like, oh, I just have to kill this boss and then the map's done and I can just go interact with everything else at my own leisure. And I think that
Yeah.
this all sort of like circles back into like getting into that flow state and how like the way that PoE 1's designed is that there's like minimal friction in terms of like completing that objective basically when you're mapping. So you can kind of just like boom, 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 map after map after map. Whereas like anytime you have to backtrack in any game, if it's an ARPG or a story based game, it takes you out of the immersion that you have because you're focused on like the annoyance or the frustration of what you have to do rather than like playing the game basically.
Yeah,
And
for
I think that
sure.
this is sort of a thing that I talked about with Dead Rabbit yesterday about a part of the vision of the game. And this is going to kind of segue into like another topic that, you know, I think a part of the vision for the game is obviously like being more difficult than PoE 1 in a bunch of different
Yeah.
ways. But there's a very big distinction between difficulty and frustration. One example that I
Yeah.
can that I spoke about was the bosses. The first time that I played through the campaign, I struggled with these bosses, dude, but I enjoyed it. It was like fun. It was fun to like die a bunch of times and have to like, you know, figure out what I'm doing, maybe optimize a bit better and then overcome that challenge. And then an example of difficulty was I played Warrior on launch and I went into the Trials of Sekimas and I got my ass handed to me for like 2 hours. I could not get through to get even my first ascension. And it felt like it was just frustrating. Like it was just, you know,
Yeah.
the difficulty was there. I think they obviously nerfed it because it was too hard for melee and all with the honor and stuff like that. But
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that they're having a bit of difficulty sort of finding that balance between like what's difficult and fun and what's fair and what's just straight up frustrating. So I wanted to ask you like as a broad question, what do you think like the vision for Path of Exile 2 is?
Well, I think it is just meant to be more challenging. They want your mind to be more engaged when you're playing in the moment to moment action of piloting your character. I think that's what they're going for. I think they want the game to be challenging from like level 1 to level 100. Um, Whereas in PoE, that's not really the case. It really depends on the build. It really depends. Sorry, PoE 1. It really depends on the build. It really depends on how far you've progressed and then like whether you're doing like Ubers or not. Like that's where the really challenging content is pretty much only at the end. You can blow through the campaign easily. None of the bosses pose any threats. Like you might die to them, but you can just corpse rush. Um, I have a super hot take, but I would be really interested to see how people would react if they decided to make like the bosses in PoE 1's campaign where you have to beat them in one go. That would be like I think that would really make those bosses a lot more interesting than they currently are. That being said, people would riot, and I don't think they can do that. But I really liked like PoE 2's challenge in the bosses. That's the best thing about PoE 2, in my opinion. It's just like those boss fights, every single one of them is a challenge. And if it isn't a challenge, it means your build is pretty darn good.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally hear you. I mean, again, like going through my first playthrough of PoE one, it's so interesting because I find myself in like a very as a minority player of PoE one, where and I think there will be more of these types of players like myself, where we find ourselves getting into the franchise from Path of Exile 2 first, and then moving into Path of Exile 1 after discovering Path of Exile 2. But it's funny because you go into this game with whatever game you had played before fresh in your mind. And so I went through the campaign expecting sort of a more of an experience, I guess, the way that I had experienced Path of Exile 2's campaign, which I have to say is like the best campaign in any ARPG that I've ever played. Um, and I was just like super like I guess let down by like a lot of the, milestone moments. Like there was a few bosses that were pretty sweet, but other than that, it was like, oh, like I just had to like phase tank them and they died and none of their mechanics mattered
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I don't know if ruthless mode works that way, but like it would be interesting to see if like, what players would think if like you actually had to kill a boss in one go and if you died, like their health bar reset and you had to like redo the fight again. I feel like that would just
Yeah,
add a
that's
lot
what
more
I mean.
engagement. Yeah.
Yeah. I think your build progress would be a lot more important during the campaign if that was the case.
Hmm.
Because right now you can be on a struggling build and then just kill the boss. To be fair though, like the builds that are struggling are the ones that are going to struggle more with that kind of a change anyways. So you're only impacting the people that are having a challenge, and the people that are really good at the game are going to blast through it anyways because they're not dying. Like you
For
have so
sure.
much damage that you just take them out in seconds. um, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
No, that's on topic. So this sort of leads me into a greater discussion that I've actually sort of been finding myself having with a lot of my chatters as well as other people on the podcast. So this is a greater discussion about what and who GGG is trying to balance PoE 2 for. So my take is that Path of Exile 1, it's gone so far now in one direction. And by what I mean by that is it's being balanced and um, developed for these hardcore players like yourself who have thousands of hours in the game. And they're basically catering to that audience. And it's gotten to the point now where, like, if you're deciding to get into PoE 1, there's a lot of catching up that you have to do. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of things you have to learn about. You don't have to learn about all of it at once. You can kind of take it step by step and figure out what you want to figure out. But there's a lot. And I think the new player experience is definitely impacted by that. That's kind of my experience with it. Whereas in PoE 2, they're at this sort of crossroads where the game is attracting a lot of new players like myself to the Path of Exile like franchise, but we're still having these hardcore players play the game for hundreds, if not thousands of hours. So I wanted to ask you, how do you think that Path of Exile 2 should be balanced? Do you think that it should be catering more to like newer players who are like struggling with the campaign or their ascendancy runs and stuff like that? Or do you think that it should lean more towards like the hardcore player base?
I think they should cater towards me specifically.
Which is definitely a hardcore
No, no,
man.
no. I'm in the middle. I'm right in the middle. Like,
Oh, okay, okay.
um, no, dude, that is such a hard question, and I'm sure like they're struggling like to answer that themselves. Um,
Hmm,
I think that it has to be approachable enough that new players are willing to try it and like to give it a serious go and to like get hooked. I think there needs to be that element of like there has to be a moment where you're playing and you feel good about having overcome a challenge, and you want to get that feeling over and over and over, and that's going to be what makes you want to keep playing for years down the road. um I don't know if it has that yet. I mean, for some people I'm sure it does. I mean, you yourself, you fell in love with the game, right? So I think it's definitely like depends on the type of player that you are. um as for like catering towards the hardcore players, I think to cater towards the hardcore players, all you have to do is give them a bunch of end game stuff to do, and they'll just breeze through the campaign anyways.
hmm.
So you just give them a bunch of tools, a bunch of like fun uniques to play around with, and the, the hardcore players will find things to do. I think they're gonna continue to add like other mechanics, like the Esmeri spirits, essences, all of those kinds of things. PoE 1 has like 10 years worth of those. They're going to keep doing that in PoE 2, and it will eventually get to a point where it's overwhelming. So I wonder how they will manage that this time. having had the experience of that happening in PoE 1, are they just going to go ahead and make PoE 3? Is that going to be their answer once again? I wonder. I don't know what they're going to do.
It seems like they might end up getting into that cycle, right? Where it's like their new game opens up the universe for like a bunch of new players, and then they just add to it and add to it and add to it until like the game is only for the people who've been playing it for 10 years. And then they're like, all right, PoE 3 time. Time for
Yeah.
a fresh reset, basically. Yeah, it's a tough thing, man. And I can't wrap my head around it because the difficulty aspect of the game is what it's not the only thing that got me in love with the game, but it was something that was a fresh. It added a fresh perspective on ARPGs, especially modern ones,
Absolutely.
where you're basically just
Yeah.
like, brain off once you get your build together, and that's it. Where like I like the engagement, I like having to think about where my character is positioned and if I need to dodge something or whatever defenses. All of these things like helped me sort of get hooked on it.
Yep.
Um, but at the same time, it's like I just opened up sort of my first ever like Reddit post about the Ascension trials. Now we can just like kind of rapid fire through some like basic
Your
stuff here.
first ever? Oh my god, I've been reading those for months, man.
Yeah, no, I mean like I posted my first one. I've been reading and lurking Reddit and stuff
Oh,
like that a little bit, but I've always been like afraid to like I don't know why. I guess it's just about the stigma about Reddit. There's a lot of people on there who are like love to share all opinions. But anyway,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I opened up the floor to Reddit about the Ascension trials because I had an interaction with somebody and we had very different perspectives on it. His perspective was that everyone hates the Ascension trials, or the majority of players hate them because they're too hard, and a lot of people can't get their fifth and sixth ascendancy points, let alone get their seventh or eighth. And my perspective was like, in point one, it was incredibly challenging, but that was also because like Zarkoth or whatever his name is had like double the amount of health that he had, like what he was supposed to have, which is like insane.
That's
But now in
crazy.
point
Yeah.
two, but now in point two, it's like I feel like it's difficult yet fair is how I would classify it. Where it's like, yes, you can get fucked over by RNG, which feels terrible, especially if you're doing the 4 floors and you wasted like 30-40 minutes. But if everything goes right and you learn the way that you're supposed to interact with the trials of Sekimas, you can get it done, and it's a challenge, but it feels good to beat. I didn't realize, bro, that people were just paying for carries. Like this is a SSF like mindset where like I've never paid for someone to do this for me.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and my perspective, I'm like, what's the fun in that? Like you're not overcoming these cool challenges. But so, what's your thought on Ascension right now? How do you feel? Is it difficult yet fair? Too easy? Too hard? Where do you stand?
Man, it's so tricky because um my overall sentiment is that I don't like them. Um as I don't like them as the means of getting ascended. I'll put it as that.
Hmm.
I I like the Trial of the Sekima in terms of like the gameplay of it for the most part, but tying that power to that, and typically like I end up doing them so much later than I probably could because it just feels like a waste of time to even try
Mm.
early on when I get to the appropriate level, and then I'm just like I might not be able to do it, so I'm not going to waste the next 40 minutes, or could be 2 hours if I get bad at RNG. Um, and then there's also just those like Earnwalker guys on stage 4 that
Yeah.
totally mess me up all the time. So that's also like a roll of the dice. I don't know how you're supposed to deal with those guys. They totally shred through me most of the time. I'm usually like, I'll get to stage 4 and I'm like, okay, I'm topped up, full on honor. I'm like doing great, having a great run, and then I get to Zarkov and I'm like, I have 10% of my honor left. I'm like, oh my god, how am I gonna do this? Um, but yeah, so that's Trial of Sigma. The Ultimatum Trial, I don't like it, man. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the RNG nature of the debuffs, I guess, that you get, that you have to choose from. Like so many times you get these just horrible combinations that are particularly horrible for melee. And then you put them in these situations where your objective is to stick to a statue and bring it from point A to point B, and you're like, what the hell, dude? This is literally impossible. Like, what are you guys smoking over there? So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I I think there's probably a better way to balance it so that it's more fun. I think it's a matter of just like changing those debuffs to maybe be less punishing. Like you notice them, but they don't freaking kill you instantly or something like that. I don't know. It's a little bit too challenging in my opinion. With it being tied to the ascendancies. As far as like people farming it for the loot, I don't care. It's fine. I think I like the what's it called in PoE one, the sanctum. I like the sanctum. I think it's fun. But I wouldn't want my ascendancy to be tied to that.
Right. Yeah, it's totally I totally agree with you, man. Like I think that it's interesting because as I went through and played PoE 1 for the first time, I quickly learned that I also hated the labyrinth. I was like, this is just like not a fun and engaging system to do. I liked Azaro, the final boss. Like,
Zaro, yeah,
yeah, he had super cool voice lines. I was like, okay, this guy's got like a pretty sick vibe. But like fighting him
yeah.
was super boring, and I really preferred like the PoE 2 bosses throughout the various, Sekima's levels where they were different. Because Zario was
Just
basically
the
like the
same fight
same.
3 times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was like, "What, guys? You're gonna make me do the same boss 3 times and just a few more little spinny wooden traps in the room? Like, come on." Um, but that being said, like, I totally agree with you with especially with the Trial of Chaos stuff. It just seems like there's a spectrum of like really shitty things that you never want to take, and then there's like the things that you do want to take. And it seems like there's way more really shitty ones than like ones that are like, "Oh, that's a freebie." You know what I mean? Like, I feel like every
yeah,
single one has like some sort of detrimental impact to you. And
yeah,
then yeah, I totally agree with Sekima's too. Like the first 3 floors, like getting up to like your 5th and 6th points isn't like terrible. It's like definitely,
yeah. I
annoying
think that's
sometimes, but
okay.
it's good. But yeah, like
Yeah,
floor 4, I don't know what they did there, but like man, like the layouts are bad. The monsters that are in there are rough too, like those jar dudes. Like I remember rolling like the affliction where like a monster takes like 5% of your health away every time they
oh,
hit you. And then the jar dudes come out and they drop you down to like 5% in one burst. It's like I just got
you know
burst
what? That's
fired by these guys.
probably what's been happening to me, and I didn't even realize it. That's probably what's
Yeah.
been happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in like hardcore, if you lose all your honor in the trials of Sekimas, you don't actually die. But if you actually
Yeah,
die in the trials, then it's like bad.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I hope that with the new, it really sounds like they're adding this new way to ascend in like Act 4. I don't know if you saw like Try's new video. He just released it like a few hours ago. So check
No.
it out. He did like a deep dive on like what to expect if you're keen on like potential spoilers. But it sounds like they're
Okay.
sort of potentially working towards a new ascension method that like has way less RNG involved. But who knows? Maybe that's like a
Okay.
core point of the ascension trials is like your skill and difficulty and then this like RNG variable.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like the RNG aspect. That's definitely doesn't feel good. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
All right. So the next thing I wanted to sort of quick fire with you is just items in general. Like I wanted to get your take on like how do items feel in PoE 2, maybe particularly versus PoE 1. Are you satisfied with the unique so far? What's your general take on items?
Hmm. I don't have like a crazy opinion. I think that they're just like underbaked for now. Like they're at their simplest, and they will get more and more interesting as you know GGG keeps adding more stuff to the game. More crafting mechanics, more unique modifiers that you can interact with. As far as uniques go, they just need to keep adding more. There aren't enough yet, and I don't know. I haven't found like myself. I haven't found any uniques that make me go, oh wow, I'm gonna go and play that build now. It just hasn't happened. Nothing's super exciting. I hope they lean more into the like really cool uniques that change the way your build functions, and less of the generic like, okay, this is a good unique that you can use like for leveling, or like this one does this much damage, therefore it's good. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't have like specific examples because I'm not even that well versed in what uniques are in the game, to be completely honest. Um, but there just aren't enough. I haven't found enough that I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool. Whereas in PoE 1, there are, well, relatively there are so many that are really cool. It's just that there's got 10 years worth of uniques there, and they
For
keep
sure.
adding more. So yeah. I think it'll come. It's just not there yet. And as far as like the items and stuff like the basic modifiers on rares and whatnot, I think it'll get better. I think the sockets and rune system is not a perfect replacement for the crafting bench that we have in PoE 1, But I understand what they mean when they say that it's like similar. Um, I kind of wish we could just buy runes with gold, like at least the basic ones, because so many times I feel like I don't have the like res runes that I need to fill up my res, and I'm just like farming and using a piece of gear that is inferior to one that I found or like crafted, and because I'm missing like 14 cold res or whatever. So I wish you could like buy those runes. It feels like that's something they could do, and yeah, I also think like they could maybe add crafting orbs into like the merchants where you can just buy them with gold. I don't know how crazy that is if that would just like break the game, but nothing, not like super expensive stuff, but maybe chaos orbs with for a lot of gold and like exalts and regals because I want to use those items. I just don't find enough of them during the campaign to use them consistently. You know?
So sort of like what they have in PoE 1 where they have like a vendor in town where you can like trade up your currencies and
Yeah, something like
something like
that.
that.
Something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I don't know. Just like provide solutions to problems that we're running into, where the solution is not simply go kill more monsters until you find the right thing. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. But that being said, I also don't like how they've actually. I feel like they're relying on the gambling mechanic in order to find your loot and like merchants in general. I don't really like the whole like, oh, let's go check out my vendors I leveled up and see if they have good loot for me. I'd rather find the cool stuff on the ground from killing monsters personally.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's a good point. Like, I think that in most ARPGs, I think aside from Diablo 2, where like vendors actually had like valuable stuff sometimes that could be like really beneficial. Like a lot of games don't really rely on that system actually being like a valuable source of items for your character. But someone who plays
Yeah.
SSF, like that is a habit that I've gotten into where like every time I level up at a certain point, especially League start, I'm going back and checking just because there could be like some crazy rare in there that is like the exact item I need. So I don't necessarily hate it, but I think the feeling of finding
Yeah.
something is way better than like just buying something from the vendor. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. I don't hate it. It's like it's a fine solution, I guess, for people that are not getting lucky. But I'd rather get lucky. I don't
Wouldn't we all? That's what it's all about. Okay, I want to ask you about a very highly debated topic. Something that is pretty polarizing within the PoE 1 and PoE 2 community, and that is the skill gem and gem system, basically. So, what are your
know.
thoughts on the way that PoE 2 approached it? What are your thoughts on the way that PoE 1 does it? Which one do you prefer at this juncture as well?
Oh, I honestly like I like them both. They both have their own strengths and weaknesses. Um, I think that the PoE2 system, where you get the uncut skill gem and you get to choose whatever gem you want. I like that. I think that's better than the vendor system that PoE1 has. Um, Not that the PoE1 system is straight up bad. It's just like more intimidating for new players. Whereas like in the PoE2 one, you can kind of just you're shown just one screen worth of skills that you choose from, right? And I feel like that's a lot more approachable for someone who's like getting into the game. And then if you want to look at all the skills, you can. And then the as far as like then having to put sockets on the gem versus the PoE1 thing where you have to put sockets on your gear. Um, I think I prefer the PoE2 version. I think so. Because it is just like a little bit more flexible in terms of if you're sticking to that skill. That's where I guess things start to fall apart. Is that in PoE2, if you use your jeweler's orbs on your gem, you're stuck with having consumed that. Especially if you're using like a rare one, like a perfect, right? Whereas in PoE1, if you have a 6 link body armor, you can put a bunch of different skills and try a bunch of different things out in there um, as your main skill. So it's just like a trade-off. I don't know. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. I think they're both okay. Neither of them is perfect, um, but I think they want to have that little bit of friction in there anyway. So that it's always been part of playing Path of Exile is trying to get those sockets, or in PoE1 the links, and It's once you have them, you're really happy, and it feels like a very important like part of your character's progression, getting those extra sockets so that you can put more supports. Um, Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you kind of opened my mind up into like they're kind of doing the same thing, but just on in different ways. Like, you know, when I was playing PoE one, I found myself kind of struggling. I was playing SSF as well, so it was harder for me to like get the amount of sockets that I needed, or get the right, the amount of chromatic orbs to roll the right colors, or get the right links and stuff like that. But it felt like when I got that, I was like pretty committed to that piece of gear because I had invested
Yeah,
like a lot of currency into making that item good. And then when I wanted to upgrade it, it was like, fuck, now I have to do all this over again just to like, unless I find something that's perfect. Where in PoE 2, it's like, you spend you spend your time trying to find these really rare perfect jeweler's orbs, and you got to be damn sure when you use that thing on a skill that you're going to be using that. If you're
yeah,
in trade, that you can obviously sell it. But if you're playing SSF, you're kind of like, well, I just have this like 6 link gem that I don't use anymore. So I feel like they both have, yeah, you're absolutely right. They both have this sort of friction where it's like, in one hand, I think I prefer, like generally speaking, the way that PoE 2 does it, just because I don't like having my items like tied to my skills. It just feels weird to have to like
yeah.
micromanage not only the attributes and the roles and the modifiers of an item, but now I have to also figure out like what the colors are and the sockets and stuff like that. But with PoE 2, I can definitely understand the frustration where like, you know, yeah, like you just you slam a 6 link and then you're like you want to change your build. You're like, well, shit, now I have to like spend a divine or something like that to get that. So, but
Get another
the
one.
one
Yeah.
thing that I loved about PoE one was the vendor. Like it would be sick to have that in PoE two, where like, or better yet, have like a level 20 skill gem be able to get cut down into any ranking below level 20, and that way you'd be able to like,
Oh,
yeah, because it sucks to have to, certain
that'd be
builds you don't
cool.
want a high level skill gem. You want like to use a low level one because
Yeah,
of your
yeah, yeah,
attribute points.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
That would actually be interesting if you had like, hmm. I wonder what they could do. Like if you could use a perfect jeweler's orb on a gem, let's say it's a level 20, I don't know, whatever. Doesn't matter. And then you wanted to change what skill it was, if there was a way to lower its level but keep the 5 socket or something like that, and then you could choose a different skill. I don't know if there'd be like a trade-off they could do like that that gives people a bit more flexibility, and then you could level it up again by finding another level 20 skill gem or something like that. It's just an idea I'm throwing out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that it comes down to like there just needs to be more of these items that add utility to everything. Like one idea that I had was like this probably exists in PoE one. I don't know if it does. I'm sorry, but like I called it like an orb of elements, where like it re-rolls like what's it called? Resistances, like your resistance
Mm.
like element basically, because that's the issue with the socket system, is like you're
Yeah, yeah,
interjectedly swapping out these runes basically, on
yeah.
top of your gear's already pre-rolled modifiers, where like it'd be so nice to just be like, oh, I have a fire res item and I need it to be like lightning now, and I could just use an orb of the elements. It's RNG based, but if I have a couple of them, I can just swap out my res on that gear, and now I'm good to go, and I can be more flexible with my sockets as well, which would be
It's
cool.
even better than that in PoE1, actually. You can
Oh really?
specifically
What do they
target
got?
which resistance you want.
Oh,
Um,
that's sick.
so it's through harvest. So you have to farm,
Okay.
if you're in SSF, you have to farm harvests and get the little life force orbs from killing the monsters in there. And then you just go to your Horda crafting bench in your
Mhm.
hideout, and from there you put your piece of armor in there, and you can like type in res, and then it'll pull up a list of all the different swap fire res to cold, swap fire to lightning, or swap whatever X to Y, and then it costs a certain amount of life force. I think it's 500, and you're good to go. It'll just put it to a different res, like the res that you want in the same tier with a random roll.
That's crazy. Yeah, I looked at that like horticulture bench and I was like, what the fuck is this? There's so many
Yeah,
different things here.
I
Um,
don't know what half of those are, honestly.
yeah. And that is crafting in a nutshell in PoE 1. There's just a lot of things, but it's
Yeah.
incredible the amount of like just different outcomes you can go with, and I'm sure that like people have, distilled the like optimal way to like perfectly shape an item based on like what you're trying to do, which is
Oh, that's
not something you can do in
crazy.
PoE 2. You can just slam and pray, basically. Slam and
Yeah.
pray. All right. So one final question about Path of Exile. Oh, sorry. Before I get into this, I wanted to check in with you. We're about an hour on the stream. How are you doing and how are you feeling?
I'm fine. I could keep going for a little bit.
All right, sweet. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but yeah, I've been really enjoying chatting with you, man. So thank you so much for coming on, and
Same.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, for sure.
So one final thing, before I ask this, how do you normally play PoE two or PoE in general? Is it SSF? Is it Trade League? Is it
Oh,
hardcore?
oh man, it's such a variety.
Hmm.
I'm all over the place. Not really hardcore. I mean, I dabble in hardcore, not in PoE 2 though. I haven't. But in PoE 1, I started in hardcore at the beginning because everybody played hardcore and it was the way to play. And eventually, the game got like so big and had so many different new cool things in it that I was not trying because I was in hardcore and I was just dying on the way over to like the cool new bosses and stuff. Eventually, I decided to make the swap to go to softcore. So I typically play softcore trade. Um, Now and then I'll dabble in SSF just to mix things up. And yeah, mostly softcore trade. Never really like a super juicer who like plays like 12 hours a day. That's never been my style. Um, I'm much more casual than that. Like at most, I'll maybe like I think like the most I ever played Path of Exile was like 80 hours in 2 weeks at the launch of like Heist League, where I just like played Delve for some reason, which is like going in the mines. I don't know why I did that in Heist League, but I just did. And I played that for like 2 weeks. And that was like, oh my god, I played so much and I just quit on the spot after that. So for me, like that's a ton. But usually I play Trade League and I just try to like set myself some sort of goal. If there's new bosses, usually my goal is to beat the new bosses. Like that's what it was for Secrets of the Atlas. I just wanted to beat the 3 new bosses on whatever build I ended up rolling, which in this case was like the Stormcall build. Um, yeah. As far as PoE 2 goes, I've basically played only 3 characters really into the end game. The first time was just a witch hunter who was using like high velocity rounds as like the main single target skill, and then I had the what's it called, galvanic shards or something like that, the
Yep.
little lightning cone thing for AoE. That was really fun. Eventually, it was not strong enough to keep progressing, so I had to convert to Hawa, which everybody was doing in point one, and didn't like that meta. And then in point two, I've only played the Spearfield build and the build that I will not talk about yet. Yeah,
Okay. So it seems like in PoE 2 specifically, for the most part, after your first like initial character, you've only played characters that are like essentially for the narrative videos that you're making.
yeah, I've played a couple other characters just like in the campaign, just to get familiar with like the different weapon skills and seeing what I like, and just genuinely trying them out. But nothing taken into the end game. Yeah.
As a follow-up question, do you find it sort of difficult now, especially like logging into PoE 2, without sort of like a narrative video character build in mind, where you're just like, I'm just going to make a character that I want? Do you find it difficult to do that versus like going into it like with a more of like a content angle?
Yeah, I feel like I've pigeonholed myself into the content angle now for PoE on both fronts, PoE 1 and 2. Um, and I'm okay with that. Like, I still enjoy the games, and I feel like if I'm gonna be playing those games, I have to be working on a video for them. Um, I do all my other like having fun playing video game stuff with other games.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny. It's something as a content creator that I'm sort of just slowly realizing that like you can very easily sort of based on, I think a lot of people call it like a performance mindset where like as soon as you do something that gets pretty high performance, you sort of think, "Oh, that's what's working for me. I have to stick to that," instead of like pivoting and trying something else and maybe taking
yeah.
an L or getting less engagement or whatever. But I think at the bottom line, it's what you said. It's like as long as you're having fun doing the content that you're doing, like it doesn't really matter. Like you're still playing games and enjoying and having fun, and your content does super well. So that's a huge W, man.
I think it's about like striking the right balance, like finding the right balance for you. If you really love PoE and you can play it all day, every day, then go for it.
For sure.
It's just like for me, I do like playing a variety of games. I've been playing tons of different games my whole life. I never settle on one game. As much as I've been playing PoE for like 12 years now, it's like I'm playing a whole bunch of other games in between every single league, and then a new league launches, and I get sucked back in for like a month, and that's just been the cycle.
I got it. So I know you mentioned Expedition 33. I wanted to ask you, what are some of like the other like games that you've played recently that have like really stuck out to you as being like absolute bangers that you'd like to maybe like plug, share with some people that are listening that maybe people haven't heard of?
First thing that's coming to mind is Ultra Kill. Ultra Kill is like this crazy first-person shooter with like a PS1 graphics aesthetic, and the music is like drum and bass, really, really like hard.
Oh, it's like
And
Quake kind of vibes, it sounds like.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
definitely inspired by that. And like, oh man, it's just so much fun. um, Hopefully, like nobody at work is watching this, but we play this at work, my friend and I sometimes. and and because my buddy's a really big like Doom guy. He likes Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, and the most recent Doom: The Dark Ages. And so I was like, well, you got to try like Ultra Kill. And I ended up like bringing my computer over to work because we needed a functional computer and not one from 2012
Mhm.
as like our actual office computer. I don't know why we didn't have a better computer. But you know, the benefit is it had some games on it already. So yeah, so Ultra Kill for sure, really really fun. And it's like indie. It's made by like 3 or 4 people in total, I think, and it's still in early access. But there's already like more than your money's worth, in my opinion. And it's just like really fun to play through. Super fast paced. Besides that, like recent games, let me just like open up my Steam and look at what I've been playing because I honestly forget. I play so many things and I play for like 10 seconds and then I change games. I'm playing Supervive right now. Supervive
Okay.
is really fun. It's
Yep.
a MOBA battle royale. I
Mm.
really liked Battle Right back in the day, which nobody plays anymore, unfortunately. And this is scratching that exact same itch. Um, so it's 3-man teams. You drop down on an island and you just like pick up loot and kill creeps, and then fight other teams and try to survive and be the last team standing. It's really fun. I've put in like 10 hours in the last 5 days. It just came out in its full launch. Free to play.
Nice. Yeah, that looks super fun.
Yeah. Let me scroll through real quick. Doom: The Dark Ages, fun, pretty good. Um, Clair Obscure for sure. Fragpunk is like Counter Strike, but like with these really wacky modifiers, and heroes, kind of like Valorant. Also really fun. Would recommend that. And it seems like people are like, it's on the rise. More and more people are playing it, which is surprising because it wasn't doing that well for a while. So that's cool. And then as far as like recent games, that's about it. I think that really comes to mind.
Okay, cool. I've never heard of any of these games, so I'm definitely gonna check them
Okay.
out. I'm also like a big first person shooter Andy as well. Like I got my
Definitely
whole
check out
start.
Ultra Kill.
Yeah, it sounds like Quake, which is something that I used to mess around with way back in the day. Like super fast paced. I love the music of Quake. It had that sort of like yeah, like drum and bass vibe to it. And I'm looking at screenshots right now. Yeah, the graphics look awesome, man.
Yeah,
Oh, bro, that's like sick.
there's a gun, a revolver that you like right click with. It shoots out a coin. You like toss a coin in front of you, and then you shoot the coin, and it ricochets onto like the backs of enemies' heads. It's amazing, and
Oh,
like you
that's
can
really
combo
sick.
that with other weapons. So it's like it's a blast.
Nice, dude. Okay, so just a couple closing questions. This one's actually going to be one that I've like actually never asked on the podcast, and I was kind of just thinking about it because it seems like you know, you've had such a long history of games and not just playing like one or two games. You've played tons. Whereas, like, you know,
Yeah.
Talkative Try, when I was talking to him, he was like, Blaze, I've only played 31 games in my whole life. I'm like, bro, I played 31 games last month. Like, what do you mean? Like, I've been trying
Yeah,
games
I
like
have like
crazy.
281 games in my Steam library, and that's just Steam.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you as sort of like a sentimental note, like what has video games like meant to you throughout your whole life of like playing games, and what sort of like benefits has it brought for you as well?
Oh man. I mean, it means a whole lot. It's definitely like my biggest passion. Um, for a while, my biggest passion was music, and that was derived from my love for video games. So I think like video games have just been a part of my life my since I got introduced to them really early on, and it's hard to like just quantify that.
Mhm.
I think like the social aspect for sure was the biggest thing about it. Not just like necessarily playing with your friends in real time, although that is definitely like a huge element of it. But even just talking about games with other people afterwards. Um, I think that like bonding with other people who've played the same games and like had the same interests. Uh, yeah, it's really good. It's like any like TV series or movie that like really like sticks with you. You just want to talk about it with other people. So I think games are really great for that. And then like there are some that could be transformative that like you happen to play the right game at the right time that is giving you like a message that you needed to hear. And then maybe you change the way you see the world or certain aspects of yourself or anything, and you try to make a bit of a change. I think there are games that do that. I can't really pinpoint one specifically. Like it's more just like a collection of just experiences that make you think about that differently. And yeah, I think that's sums it up for me.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, just to build on that, I mean, dude, that's the whole reason why we're talking here today, right? It's like we both have a shared
Exactly.
passion for gaming, and I love talking about games so much that I just went out of my way to start this podcast and just chat about PoE because it's something that I also love to do, and yeah, it's allowed me to be introduced to like amazing people within the community, and
Yeah.
yeah, the social aspect is huge. I mean, during COVID, obviously, it was a super rough time for a lot of people. I got by COVID from just like the boys on Discord playing like Rust or playing Counter Strike. Like that was something that we were
Right.
doing every single night or during the day too, because we were all at home all day, every day.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like I've met a lot of like people from gaming like that I would have never met before. Like I have a group of friends that I met playing Counter Strike during COVID or right before COVID, and then I had my 30th birthday in Vegas, and a lot of them like drove down from Salt Lake to come meet for the first time in Vegas, and
Wow.
we partied it up and played games and then they came to Toronto where I'm from, and we had a huge like homie meetup in Toronto. We went to like an internet cafe, like one of those classic like LAN centers, and we rented like 10 computers and we played like 5v5 Counter Strike like IRL.
Oh,
And
dude, that sounds like a blast. That would be like a dream of mine to do that.
I mean, bro, if you come to Toronto, we'll make it happen, man. But it
Yeah, I'll
was
have
it was
to
just
hop on a
special.
train.
Yeah. But yeah, it just showcased to me like how powerful like relationships can be just through like making like friends on playing video games. It's like I don't know, a
Yeah.
lot of people I think in our from older generations don't understand that like these people that we hang out with are our homies, are our friends. They're like, it doesn't matter if we haven't met in real life or not. It's like, we spent so much time virtually playing together that when I met these guys, it's like it wasn't awkward in the slightest bit. I was like, oh, like I know you. I know you. Like,
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but it's pretty special.
I mean, I guess the closest thing to that was like last year when I got invited to that like PoE Los Angeles meetup, and I met like Taka to Try there and like a bunch of other PoE creators, and that's like the most similar thing I can say. And it was like quite a few of them. I was just like, oh, we just like connected immediately. It was like, oh, like you are like my people. Like I could totally just hang out with you all the time.
Yes. I didn't even know you went to that. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I got really, really lucky that I got invited to that, and like, there's a whole story behind that because I thought it was fake at first, and like, because I got it in an email and I thought it was fake. I was like, I just didn't respond, and then like Taka to Try mentions that he's going to Los Angeles, and I'm like, wait, hold up. So I start doing some investigating, and I discover no, this was real, and I'm like, hold up, I told you guys I didn't want to go, but actually I've changed my mind.
You're like, I'm gonna unblock this email address now so you guys can keep
Yeah,
sending me shit.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy. That's a perfect
yeah.
follow-up into my next question was what are some of the biggest milestones or highlights that you've had as your content creation career has progressed over the last however long you've been doing it?
Yeah, definitely that was the biggest highlight, I would say, going to that little trip. It was so much fun meeting all of these other creators and like-minded individuals, and just getting to experience PoE 2 for the first time together, and then like also just meeting some people that like you that I respected that I've been watching for like 10 years. Like that's just kind of surreal, being in real life. And not only that, but also just like sitting down and having breakfast with them. Like that was just like super casual. I have Mathel on my left and like Zizarins across the table from me, and I'm like, huh, this is wild. I never would have expected this would happen. So yeah, no, that's definitely the highlight. That was like a really cool moment. I'm really glad that I got invited to that. Besides that, in terms of like actual like YouTube videos and stuff, I think like the video that I've just been the most proud of, especially at the time, was like my "This Is Path of Exile" video that completely popped off. Got like hundreds of thousands of views within like a week, and yeah, way more of a like warm reception than I expected. Anything, and I did work hard on that one, so it was felt really good to have that happen. And I got a taste of that. I was like, oh, this is like really fun, and I want to experience this more often. And yeah,
That's excellent. Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine like that Los Angeles event must have been just like a surreal experience.
absolutely.
And it's great to hear that when you put in hard work in the editing suite, that sometimes it pays off because I know a lot
Yeah,
of people are like, "Oh, every time I put out a video that I barely try on, it gets way more views than like the videos that I like pour my soul and heart into." But that's not necessarily always the case, guys. And like, look at like Schwingy's like most proud video. He probably worked like an insane amount on that stuff. So,
it was a
yeah,
lot. Yeah, it's like a 10-minute video, and I probably put like 100 hours in editing, which is like kind of crazy. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I had a moment like that in like my art career where like sort of similar to your Los Angeles trip where I was invited to paint in like this event in New York City last summer called the Graffiti Hall of Fame. And so basically
Okay.
graffiti originated in like New York City in like the like late 60s, early 70s. So that is like the ground zero for this like subculture that's essentially like spread throughout the world. And so I got invited to go paint there in this courtyard where there was like basically graffiti writers that I had been like looking up to since I was like a teenager in my like high school class, like scribbling my name on like pieces of paper. And it was all due
Yeah.
to this one movie that came out called Style Wars. So Style Wars is the definitive documentary that came out about graffiti like subculture. It was the first time anybody had really like interviewed these young kids painting on trains and documented their work, and then put it together in a format that was like easily accessible. And that movie was single-handedly responsible for like spreading the good word of graffiti to the whole world, basically.
Yeah, that's really
Um,
cool.
and so I met like the one of the late like the lady who like worked on that movie. Like her name's Martha Cooper, and she took my photo while I was painting in the Hall of Fame. And I met all of these guys that were in that movie who are now like 60 years old. And it was just like crazy, bro. I was like, I kept looking at my friends, being
Yeah,
like, dude, is this happening? Like, are we here
I
right
can
now?
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was like
It's
for me too.
special.
It was like crazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's super cool. So yeah, basically at this point in time, I would love to ask you our final question, and that is what are some pieces of advice that you could give to anybody who's maybe looking to start a YouTube channel or start making content? What are some things that you could share in terms of advice that would help them guide them on their content creation journey?
Hmm. Um, I'd say don't get caught up on the numbers, especially early on. It takes a long time to build up an audience and like to start seeing results. I'd say at the beginning, if you're really just starting out, just do it. Like don't like hesitate. Just pick something that you're interested in, something that you see yourself that you could do for a while, and then just like make a video, make one video, put it out. Don't pour your heart and soul into it. You're not at the stage where you can do that yet, I think. I think you should really just like try and get stuff out there, figure out what you like about making YouTube videos, and then hone in on that. And as long as there is some sort of audience for whatever content you're making, they'll find you. Um, and definitely like I want to say like don't give up early because it takes a long time to actually start seeing the fruits of your labor. Um, yeah. Also like try to be a little bit like directed. Don't just go left and right and try a whole bunch of different stuff. If you're doing it just for fun, absolutely. But if you're doing it to try and grow your channel, I think that might be a mistake that a lot of channels make, that I've made for sure in the past, where I just flip flop between different games and stuff, and it really does harm your channel, which just sucks, because it would be really nice to just do whatever the heck you want. But YouTube doesn't work that way. So you got to work within the confines of YouTube if you want to see results. If you're just doing it for fun, then do whatever the heck you want. Just have fun. And like, I think the biggest thing is like, people just get caught up in like, oh, it's not good enough. Like, it doesn't matter. Just do it. Just put it out there. And if you're putting yourself out there, you're already ahead of like most of the people in the world.
Thank you for sharing that. That is some awesome advice. Yeah, it is a shame that like the algorithm really like supports people who are putting out like content within a very specific niche. And I think it's a
Yeah.
general knowledge that like if you stray away from that, the algorithm's like, wait a minute, this isn't what you've been doing before. Like, we're not going to show this to anybody. But I think
Yeah.
that if people go out of their way at the beginning to maybe try some different stuff and
Yeah.
find out what clicks for them, you know, you don't have to necessarily know what your niche is right away. You can start off as a mess of things, and then if something really you find that you really enjoy pops off, then maybe that's a sign that like that's something that you know, if you enjoy that, you know, that could be your
Exactly.
direction.
That's more my point. It's more like, once you've already started building an audience, then when you don't want to be messing around too much. I think that's the key takeaway I was trying to convey. But yeah, when you're starting out, definitely try stuff out. Like, you're probably not going to want to stick to doing that first video 100 times.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, for me, I've never had a like game really that I was so passionate about that I wanted to make content for until Path of Exile 2 came around, which is kind of crazy to say because I played so many games and I tried to do a
Yeah.
little bit of Rust stuff here and there and I tried to do a few other things, but nothing really ever stuck more than like a video or two. But I don't know, there's something about Path of Exile that really just like inspired me to like start. Like, I don't know why, or you know, and now I look back at my first video, which was just a hardcore solo Southbound guide, and I'm like, oh my god, like,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's all
I've
part of the
watched that. It's a
journey.
good guide. I needed
Oh,
it.
thanks, man. Well, I'm glad somebody's got some use out of it, dude. But yeah, bro, it's like, you know, it's been a really cool chat with you. It's been really cool to chat with you. I really appreciate all of your like insights about streaming, about life, and about gaming. So I want to thank you very much for coming on today.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we finally got around to doing this. I know you've been wanting to have this chat for a couple months now, I think. So I'm really happy that it's happened. We're here. We did it.
Absolutely, dude. We
Thank you.
did it. And
Thank you for having me.
of course, it's an absolute pleasure. You're a super chill guy. I think you're like a, you know, stand-up person within like the PoE2 community and PoE community in general. So it's always cool to meet more folks like yourself. And I have to try a shout out here. As you mentioned, I am a bit persistent when it comes to like getting these conversations happening. I know that we all have busy schedules. And so I had to bug Try for a few months to like actually, you know, come on the pod. But he actually opened up the floor to me to meet a lot of great people like yourself and other people that have had on the podcast as well. So love you, Try. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. At this point in time, just plug yourself. Where can we find you? And what are you working on? I know you teased a bit of what you're working on, but you can reiterate if
Yeah.
you'd like.
Okay, sure. You can find me on YouTube on Schwingy, just Schwingy for ARPG stuff, and then the second channel where it's not ARPG stuff is also just Schwingy, but one of them has a space, and I don't remember which one. It doesn't matter. And otherwise, yeah, I'm working on another PoE2 SSF Zero to Hero Journey video, which is probably going to be in the same vein as my Spearfield one. So it's probably going to be like almost an hour long, unless I decide to split it into two videos. I haven't decided on that yet. And that should be coming relatively soon, before 0.3 is my goal. Yeah.
Nice. I can't wait to hear that and watch that. Guys, as always, I will leave a link in the description to Schwingy's YouTube channel if you're not already following him and living under a rock, because come on, guys, this guy's content's awesome. Yeah, man, like again, your content is excellent. I can't wait to watch that next video. And thank you so much again for coming on today.
Thank you.
All right, peace out, y'all. All right, everybody, that wraps it up for this episode of the Passive Tree Podcast. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe for more PoE2 content. I have a bunch more episodes of the podcast lined up with some really great guests, so keep your eyes peeled for that. If you're interested in supporting the podcast and the channel, consider supporting through Patreon. There's a link in the video description. A special shout out to Kevin F. for supporting this channel. I appreciate you. Thank you. And until next time, happy blasting, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.